Wait, so you want me to sit in an office and dispatch heroes?
That's the idea.
Well, let's begin then. Developers Ad Hoc Studios and help from Critical Role. From developers who worked on The Walking Dead, The Wolf Among Us, and Tales from the Borderlands, ex-developers of Telltale open up their new studio and now are going to continue off the Telltale format with Dispatch. Alright, released on October 22nd, 2025, Dispatch was met with a lot of fanfare, and I believe there's many people who still miss Telltale's formula in certain but complicated feelings. So, let's begin.
Obviously, I love him. He's my dad. What does that mean? Just say what you want to say.
It's just, when you add obviously, it feels a little less obvious. So, I'll ask again. How do you really feel about your father?
We begin the game with Robert describing his feelings about his father with someone else in the room. It is later revealed that this other person is indeed a criminal who was aligned with the person who murdered his father. But an interesting thing to note is the fact that Robert seems to have some sort of invisible distance between his relationship with his father when he was alive, and that kind of self-doubt on whether or not if he did or did not love his father. This establishes a small aspect of Robert and how he feels about his father, perhaps if he did or did not love his father due to the history they had. A small setup beat describes a character that Robert possesses that may be answered by the end. Now, the scene is also revealed that Robert is on the ground and his dog, licks his face. So we have kind of like a few tones that the game wants to go for. A comedic tone with the dog trying to lick his face, and Robert, that he's on the ground and his nose is bleeding due to the person who hit him. Describing this out loud to the audience.
No, it's probably from when I kicked you in the face.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
And then you have a serious tone. It immediately shifts when Robert wants to outright find Shroud, and then the whole situation escalates a little.
So, here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna hang you off the side of this building, and you're gonna tell me where Shroud is, or I'm going to drop you to your death.
Come on, I thought we were having a breakthrough.
Hey, we did. For being a real piece of shit, you're pretty easy to talk to, but the only breakthrough I need right now is the location of Shroud.
I'm not telling you you loser!
See, this is more like how I thought this would go.
I hope Shroud kills you just like he killed your father. I hope he spanks your little daddy as you to death, you hear me? Are we outside?
Windy up here tonight, huh?
Why are we outside?
No telling where you'll
It
land.
smells like outside smells. Wait!
So, I think I need to clarify a little bit more on what I mean is wrong with the scene. Many stories do indeed imply a shift of tone when the plot wants to move forward into a particular direction. I believe what makes this scene feels a bit off is the fact that at the beginning we had a certain kind of tone to introduce Robert as a character and his relationship with his father and how he or what he believes and thinks. Then we have the reveal of who's in the room, and we are given the impression that the character themselves, by the tone, it seems as if Robert is not only headstrong, but he knows what he's doing. He's intimidating, and he's willing to do some questionable actions in order to get revenge. The opponent he's up against is relatively calm. Not exactly a strong opponent, but not one who is weak either. He is calculating, he is jabbing at Robert. He knows exactly which buttons or switches to turn, it seems, and he is generally calm. And then the switch flip, and he's completely not that. It seems as if we're dealing with a whole different person, and there isn't really a moment where you feel as if that tone is warranted. The only justification I could come up with is the writer wanted to have a kind of question on Robert and how to introduce him, and then they wanted to move on with the plot because that was no longer the priority. So once the outright scene served its purpose, they could now continue with the story regardless on how it really felt. And overall, I believe this is just a crack within the first few minutes of the story. Whether or not these cracks will get bigger is something we have to see through until the end. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about the tone shift. It is also trying to keep some sort of comedic tone as well, no matter how small, with the criminal trying to say some weird aspects that could make you smirk, and Robert commenting on the fact that he has neighbors as the criminal is screaming. It doesn't really feel that much like it's a good shift, but regardless, we have set up our character. Despite how small it is still a beat that we can indeed start with. And that brings us to one of our first variation choices. Variation choices are different from dialogue choices. Dialogue choices, you can say small aspects of what you want, but it doesn't really affect Robert as a character or who he is. Small variation choices, however, describe a different kind of Robert. It shapes your Robert in a small way, allows you to outright see a different version of Robert. Now, the man is fine in either situation. He lands on a mattress that Robert prepared into a garbage can. Well, I think the thing is, with this choice, it really doesn't make a difference, regardless of what you choose. It is there for the players to feel as if they have some sort of impact in the game. I'm not entirely sure if this is a wise choice, which every moment in your game matters, and every implement choice is just more work for the developers. There isn't much of a difference between the choices, but in this game, it's more or less the experience of your first time playing, and what you choose to do on your first run gives you a more or less illusion of choice, allowing you to feel as if the choices in particular matter, when in actuality only matters to you, and the game wants you to feel as if that is the case. Regardless of what you do in the game, you always see, one way or the other, the same kind of ending, maybe with small differences, but the ending the same nonetheless. This game just wants to offer you a sense of a world and depiction of a world, and doesn't really want to focus too much on many choices, only a certain important selection to make. It does give you a sense of a false delusion that the amount of choices in the game, that more of them actually matter than they do.
Let me explain to you. You've lost me.
Now, every time you see that prompt in the top left, you start to think that some of these choices actually matter in some way. They have some significant influence on the plot, or reason for them to exist. No matter how minor or how small they might be, technically they do indeed have an effect. But it's never really at the extent that it really has a huge significant consequence. And I think most players believe that the prompt itself actually means something more than it's letting on. Choices like these should actually make you feel as if it will have some significance in the story later on, but that's not really the case. In past Telltale games, it's usually just a variation choices on who's going to be in which spot at the time. If I were to describe this sort of pattern, it would be the one timeline result. Now, the one timeline result would be like this. You have one straight timeline. That's your main timeline. And then you have all these variations choices you can make. And as a result, every time you make a choice, the choice itself goes out for a branch, and then it comes right back to the main time. Every single time. And it will always give you the same timeline, regardless on how you play. Other games do have a sense of the same idea, but in the end, they do still want a difference of a result in the game. The timeline is more of a branch than just one stick. And that really is one of the most central goals to nail down, whether or not how one perceives the overall decision making they are making. And the game is telling you that these decisions matter when, I believe in Telltale's past history, that is not the case. It actually has problems with how many decisions you make it has to account for, and oftentimes it usually doesn't even want to think about that all too much. Be a little bit of a letdown, but hopefully as time goes on we might see whether or not these new Telltale writers either change up the formula or they are continuing the same formula of the past games they've worked on. After getting the information from the criminal,
Llewellyn Steelwork.
Robert then suits up and makes his way to Shroud. He stealthily, with quick time events that you can't fail, takes out goons one by one, and even hacking one of their terminals, which you can use into a small hacking minigame. There you just go across a grid. Even then, I don't know how to properly describe this minigame other than simple. Allows Robert to hack through this facility and obtaining the location necessary to confront Shroud. It's revealed that Shroud actually predicted that Robert would come. He set up everything, and the person who meets him is the same person we had tied up, revealing that not only was Robert outplayed, but Shroud lured him into a trap, one to steal the Astral Pulse, the power source for his suit. Robert is a hero named Mecha Man. He is one of the few heroes that we know of in this world that does not possess any superpowers at all. After a comedic bit, Robert enters his suit and then confronts Toxin. A fight ensues, and Robert is eventually overpowered by sheer numbers. His suit shuts down for a bit. When he tries to reset and reboot it, Shroud makes some predictions.
What do you got left on them shields? I said 40%, but Boss Man says you're down to 28. And he is not wrong about these things. Boss Man says if you're planning on diverting, pulse power to the boosters, it won't work.
They are somewhat wrong. His shields aren't really holding up as much anymore, so Robert makes one last attempt and shoots out of the facility into the sky, escaping from Shroud. His goons seem like they are preparing for something. Perhaps Shroud predicted this as well. It is revealed that Mecha Man has a hidden bomb onto his back. It was planted there by someone, and he gets blown out of the sky. And in that moment, as Robert is falling through the sky, we get the title card. Just a side note here, the title card being placed here was actually a good touch. An outright depiction of Robert as a character right now is in a sense, broken person. He is at the lowest part of his life, now falling from the last part that he has left. His hero work, his Mecha Man, and perhaps even his vengeance against Shroud. All of it falling apart. His life, his dreams, his wishes, his ideals, everything he values coming crashing down. Studying Robert as a character is somewhat broken before we even start the story. He's at the lowest point. He doesn't really have much money. You can have a character in a game that doesn't possess much money, or does possess much money but have a low point in their lives. This, in a sense, is Robert's lowest point in his life. Not only does he have no father, no money, his suit is now battered and broken down. One of the last things he possessed left, his ability to do hero work, his ability to be a hero, as he falls from the sky. And then the title call, Dispatched. With this being the start of the story, introducing you to the game, we then get a news broadcast 4 months later, depicting the event that Mecha Man suffered incredibly damage. The Astral Pulse went missing, and now Mecha Man has finally broken his silence in order to address the public and his plans moving forward. Now, this news broadcast also gives you a little bit more world building to chew on. Information about superheroes, Mecha Man as a character, and his position in the world. It's also depicted in this kind of comic book style vision, paying homage to old style comic books, I would suspect. We also get a bit of information about Shroud, a former Braid Brigade member turned villain, killed the pilot of the Mecha Man in cold blood. This is our main villain, and our introduction and information to the world as a whole. As Mecha Man addresses the public of his future plans. You as a player can choose what he decides to do in this moment, but regardless of your choices, the same outcome kind of happens. Robert is at his lowest point. He no longer has the Mecha Man suit, and he lost the Astral Pulse. He's not only badly injured, but he is down on his luck with not much funds to repair the suit. The last reporter gives him a question, continue the idea of what Robert and his relationship to not only his father, but his ideal as a superhero.
Charles Kingsley, South Bay Signal. So, Shroud kills your father, goes to jail 15 years, breaks out, and immediately dupes you into a trap where he destroys the Mecha Man suit and puts you in a coma for months.
I didn't hear a question there.
Two-parter. First, why didn't Shroud kill you? You haven't been conscious for months. It'd be easy money taking you out.
Okay, Shroud wanted the Astral Pulse and Mecha Man gone. He got both. I'm not sure I mattered much.
Right, you're unimportant. Which leads me to my next question. Most heroes avenge their family. You did the opposite. You killed their legacy. How disappointed would your dad be if he were here right now? Your father, your grandfather, they must be rolling over in their graves.
I think he'd be proud, because I'm alive. Which, as you so sensitively pointed out, he isn't. I think he knows that I sacrificed everything and that I did my best. Being Mecha Man, protecting my community, was the greatest honor I'll ever have. Now I have to live knowing that. Thank you for coming.
This is more of a question for Robert and how he thinks of not only his father, but what his father represented. The idea of being a hero, of sacrificing, of giving his life for the cause, of doing what he can because it was right, and how he loved his father.
Obviously, I love him. He's my dad.
In all sorts of ways. Robert, in a sense, is conflicted emotionally. He says, one, how he views his father is complicated, but he still wants to love the man he knew. In a sense, in this moment, Robert could also feel as if he has failed his father. He's lost everything. He's lost the money his father's left him, and he lost the Mecha Man suit. He doesn't really have much strength left for him to fight. As Robert watches the news, it is shown that there is a robbery right in front of him as they steal a bunch of TVs and televisions. Obvious note that Robert is shattered both physically and emotionally, and is depicted in the glass shattering, obviously. But I would say you should remember that whole news broadcast and information. That was laying down world building. We shall remember that, folks. Yes, we will be doing that. I will be showing parts of the video that will be coming back at the end. The fact is, we will remember many of the parts and beats of the story that they depict. The reason why is because these elements actually have a major importance to the world itself and how good or how bad that they wrote everything. And so everything is going to need to be gathered up. So, in honor of Telltale, we will remember that, folks. It is quite interesting that not only is a robbery taking place, there is really no alarms happening, and Robert is just standing there looking at them, and they don't even register he exists, which is quite odd, but nonetheless, Robert has a decision to make. Does he or does he not? Well, nonetheless, Robert still makes a decision that he will stop the robbers in front of him in the condition he is in. Obviously, he loses, but another aspect is when the robber asks him who he is. Robert is stopping these criminals, but in a sense, who is he stopping them for?
Honestly, I'm not sure anymore. Right now, I'm someone with nothing to lose, which is probably bad news for you. I'm Mecha Man.
You're not Mecha Man. That's Mecha Man.
I'm Mecha Man, dipshit. Okay, that's my suit.
Wow, you're gonna be wishing you had it right now.
Why is he stopping them? In a general sense, who is Robert anymore, if not Mecha Man? And what is Mecha Man without the mecha suit? So, after getting beaten up 4-on-1, quite brutally actually, someone comes to his rescue. There's a bit of stuff on the nose in this episode, like the fact that everything seems to be on the nose. Robert's literal glass breaking, depiction of him falling from the sky as his suit comes crashing to the earth, and now the person who saves him literally being depicted in light. Some of the stuff is very on the nose, and one would say a little bit too on the nose, but stuff like this can still work if the writing is good. And, it can be interesting to look at and self-reflect. If done poorly, this could be more cringe than anything else, but it is done in a way where you don't notice it, and that is at least what you should hope for should be standard. If you don't notice it being a problem, then hopefully it isn't a problem. Now, I'm not going to say they couldn't have improved it, but what we got is quite enjoyable nonetheless. I do still like this shot, regardless. Alright, so I've been holding off for a while, but I guess it's prevalent to note there's a lot more comedy in these moments, as if the developer wants to just crack out jokes and the swear words as often as one breathes. It can also affect the tone of the game.
Thought I was getting emotionally snotty.
No, it's probably from when I kicked you in the face.
Are we outside?
Windy up here tonight, huh?
Why are we outside?
No telling where you'll
It
live.
smells like outside smells. Wait,
I
wait!
have neighbors. Use your inside voice. It was nice talking to someone about this stuff. I guess what I'm saying is, I'm really glad I kidnapped you tonight. Can I get a copy of that video when we're through here? 'Cause it's over, Shroud. And it would be nice to watch that back at a different angle.
Oh no, it's over, Shroud.
All this build-up, face to face with your father's killer, and you come in here with that lame I asked him about your dad. Fun little tidbit. He was very well hydrated. Turns out right after Shroud shot him in the chest, your dad pissed his pants. Bet you didn't know that, huh? So after that bullet tore through his insides, he still had enough time to know how absolutely he was, and just pissed himself like a little. It was like so much piss. Because your dad was wearing shorts, so
Hey.
it just kept.
I get it. Can we just skip to the part where you reveal your bull superpower so we can fight for real? Cool. So, you, got some kind of clever supervillain name?
You can call me toxic.
Bro, that works on so many levels for you.
Yeah, no. That's the point!
The death of Mecha Man. Again.
The street is, you're donezo.
Are you 100 years old? Why are you talking like that? With a pack of f***ing Skittles idiots like you.
What the?
That guy I threw, he landed on the roof, right?
All good.
Phew.
I know who you are. You're like, famous.
Oh, I don't know about that. I'm just a corporate hero for hire. You're the famous one.
Right, I don't think infamous is the same as famous, but...
Well, I guess you could say most of it is comedy, the other bit is somewhat comedy. So when we meet Robert's savior, she introduces herself as Blonde Blazer. Robert mentions the fact that she is famous. This follows up by the fact that she believes he's more famous. But it's also interrupted by another joke where you see her on the bus. Robert describes himself more infamous. In a sense, small details, but Robert has somewhat of an inferior.
Do you speak any English?
Inferiority complex.
It shows subtly in the dialogue, but Robert does occasionally seem as if he believes that the superheroes are usually the ones with powers, able to do more good in the world and able to save more lives, who stand up for. After Blonde Blazer fixes his shoulder, they go to a bar. They discuss life, they discuss alcohol, they talk about friends, they joke around, they drink a few here and there. Robert spits some alcohol into her mouth.
We'll just destroy the planet, kill everybody, and then never talk about this again.
Robert discusses a lot of aspects about his hero work, how expensive it was, and what he gave up for it. This impresses Blazer. In its general sense, you start to see something about Blazer. She's hiding something. However small, but it is something there. But she somewhat admires Robert for his dedication and who he is, actually. It might be more subtle, but Robert admires her for who she is as a hero, how she kind of embodies what a hero in his mind is. Noble, strong, kind, and committed to do the right thing. Alright, after Blonde Blazer cleans up, Robert meets an old friend, as you may say. An ex-villain, in fact, one he busted years ago. As seems that he still has some beef with Robert. And at his lowest point, he decides to outright challenges Robert on the fact that he's no longer a hero. Now, in a general sense, this does make sense. An ex-villain turned hero now wants to outright get back at the guy who, in a sense, ruined his life. So, he wants to outright put pressure on Robert. You also have a choice of 3 particular dialogue choices. Depending on who you are, it could be funny and it could not be funny. But I'll let you decide for that.
Wait, it's coming back to me. Hold on. Yeah, it's coming back to me. Oh, wait. I know it. You are Doctor Don't Do Shit. Your deal is you walk up to people, look threatening, talk a big game, then don't do shit about it. Also, you're not a real doctor, because you're a idiot. You are sunglasses indoors at night guy. Your superpower is that you're able to let everyone know in the room that you're a bag, because you should literally never do that, unless you're at the final table of the World Series of Poker, but even then, if you win, you're still a loser. You know what? You are Mr. Wet Ponytail. Your superpower is then obviously your ponytail, which, aside from being disgusting, has the ability to never not be wet. In battle, you whip it around and anyone it touches kills himself.
That is... damn.
You good?
Sorry, I choked on my spit.
After Flambe introduces himself, Robert has the choice to either throw some water or alcohol on him. Now, if you don't choose, the game will choose for you, but regardless of the choice, it will leave Flambe with a permanent scar. Flambe could lose one of his permanent teeth that will show up in future cutscenes, or he could lose his eyebrows, which will also be permanent in future cutscenes. You as a player has a choice. Which one do you want to throw at Flambe? Robert gets thrown out for causing trouble. In a sense, it is almost as if everything is rejecting him in the world. His luck can't get any worse, and everything is kinda rejecting him, feeling like he's out of place in a hero bar. So, Blazer comes out and takes Robert to a place she enjoys, and begins the scene.
It's a little out there. Easier if we fly.
She takes him to a billboard of Phenomenon, right next to a convenience store, actually. So, while discussing, Robert and Blazer start to get a little bit more intimate. She takes off Robert's mask and looks him deep in the eyes. You have a choice here. Do you kiss Blonde Blazer, or do you let the moment pass? Regardless of your choices, no matter how small they might be, still have somewhat of an effect on your playthrough. After the moment you spend with her, she reveals her real reason for being here. Trackstar, a former Break Brigade member who worked with Robert's father, apparently works at IGN. Trackstar is currently working at SDN, state-supported company that is more or less law enforcement in this world, but closer to public service people. So the offer Blonde Blazer is giving Robert as SDN is to make him Mega Man again with all the support and resources he would require to rebuild the mecha suit new and improved. But as for the work, they wish for him to head the Phoenix Project, to dispatch some of the younger heroes and mentoring them. So she gives something for Robert to be tested with. It is a small tutorial for the game, but nevertheless it serves its purpose. The gameplay on dispatching comes down to you have a select amount of heroes to dispatch, each of which have their own strengths and weaknesses, divided into a skill tree of combat, vitality, mobility, communications, and intelligence. The gameplay is actually a bit interesting on how it wants you to pair up individuals for certain strengths, using their superpowers to give you an advantage in a problem at hand, using the stats in order to know which people to send, and you can also increase their stats in order to improve the hero to your best specification to get the job done. This is also where you can get a lot of character dialogue between the heroes you are dispatching. Many of their information, history, and charm can come from these dispatch moments. And of course, a lot of comedy bits in these dispatch areas as well. This is one of the main sources of gameplay in this game. And as a result, I really do think this is actually a neat concept. I would say it still needs a bit more polishing, and difficulty-wise needs to be upped in difficulty. After Robert finishes, he finds Blonde Blazer sleeping on his shoulder. Surprised he didn't notice her before, but regardless, Blonde Blazer wakes up and tells him that she'll see him tomorrow, and that she isn't done trying to save him.
Not done saving you yet.
In this moment, her motivations still seem like a mystery, but it seems like she admires Robert in her own way. Robert goes home and, of course, tells his dog, his buddy, he's a good dog, in the wreckage of his mecha suit, depicting him parallel to his mecha suit, beatered, battered, broken parts, barely hanging on, but still some life left in him. And the credits then hit. So there was 2 directors and 1 writer for this episode. Game story was at a good start. It gives you a lot to outright think about without telling you all of it at once, and trying to get you into the game and the game's systems bit by bit and slowly. There was a lot of work and thought out planning in this first episode that I cannot deny that this was, in a general sense, an impressive episode to start us out on. From the introduction to the characters, to a fascinating world of superheroes and villains, in a sense, to a villain that we hopefully will discover more information about, to what Robert's endeavors at SDN might lead to, all of which could lead to an outcome. This could be one of the most fascinating video game superheroes in the modern age. Only time will tell. But if you got to this far, thank you for watching. First up, we are far from the actual ending to this review. I'm afraid I couldn't do it all in one video because it would take too much time. I don't actually know if I want to actually do that. I might compile all the videos into one when I complete the series, but it could take all the way until Dispatch Season 2, who knows? What is known is the fact that this first episode, as a result, is probably one of the better ones in the entire game. Starts you out in a very interesting world, making you want to discover a little bit more. It's artistic and music elevated without you even noticing. It gives off a nice comic book feel, and its main character, Robert, fascinating, interesting, but feels like there's more depth to him. That was Dispatch Episode 1. I will see you in Episode 2. Lord bless, and have a great day.